is the difference between compliance and guidance or governance?
Compliance, like we can tell, it's like others to laws and regulation and standards. And whereas governance is like we can say there's a system of rules
Okay.
which an organization will be like directed and like will be controlled like.
Okay. See, always keep in mind that whenever it comes to compliance, compliance means a set of rules that you have to follow. Okay. Governance means what you told was correct, like organizing, taking care of the security postures, making that control, prevention, detections, everything is brought in proper shape. So that's a main focus of data governance. So we have a complete program information how we require and what are the important things we use in the organization structure. So whenever we talk about security governance, it is always a process where you can say methodologies, we can say directing or controlling the organization to achieve the goals of business. So yesterday in the one slide we discussed about goal, missions and objectives. So a compliance is a set of rules that organization must follow to ensure that business process are secure. So we need to make sure that business goals should balance the confidentiality, integrity, availability, and business strategy implications. These are the very important aspects that we use mainly into the governance and compliances. So compliances means a set of rules that has to be implemented in the organizations. So under this, you will be also having non-compliances. This is a very, very challenging in the organization. Suppose they have implemented ISO 27001 and some of the policies have been not met, like password management they have not implemented. They have implemented whenever they want to change the password as per the requirement. So control is not in place. So that type of issues will go into non-compliances issues. So some of the best examples in terms of governance, we can say organization committee, organization goals, implementation of security policies, procedures, protection of organization and information assets of the function that we use it. So today we're going to discuss about PCI DSS. There will be a compulsory question on PCI DSS. So what is very important for in this point of view? So whenever in compliances, there will be at least 5 or 6 questions for sure. So we need to know how this compliances we use in different aspect. So payment card, industry, data security standard, it's a kind of merchant service provider is used for millions of transactions per second. So for example, all over the global world, if you talk about the global world, you have n number of business applications, n number of commercial shops. So the merchant, it can be Visa, Master, Discovery Card, American Express. So as service providers, which they're using, it can be a different, any vendors that they've been using it. So it can be a customers, business to customers, customer to customers. So we'll be using in a transaction process. For example, today we have been using this Paytm in India, PhonePe in India, GPay in India, BharatPay in India. This is all is an example of gateway transactions. Application is used in terms of QR code to process with the financial information. We say monetary transactions. So mainly thing is they work on credit cards. In United States, they mainly use a credit cards. So we need to administrate the standard what is required for the card and brand that information. So PCI DSS is a security standard which is used for security standard of council. It is used to protect customers' credit card informations. So sometimes we might use the prepaid card as well. So PCI DSS applies to any organization that accepts, process, payment card, covers technical, operational system, component that are connected to the card holders or data. It helps to reduce the fraud or a data breach by setting or a baseline or a minimum level of protection for the customers. It has a framework. So when we talk about the framework, what are the framework we use? First thing, it will prevent the customer's data. It will prevent Arvind's credit card. So if Arvind is using Citibank or he is using Access Bar credit card, or if he's using SBI credit card, it depends on the process. So we require detections, response, and security of the incidents. These are the very important topic that we normally use it. So to run this PCI compliances, what are the components we use? We use security management. We use policies. We use procedures. We use network architectures. We use software design, critical protective measurements. This is the organization standards. Is this thing, how it looks like. So we were talking about 12 types of requirement, right? There is that PowerPoint. You see this, all merchant, regardless of level, relevant service providers required to comply with following 12 domains and requirements. Okay. So with these 12 requirements, we'll be having list of information, domain 8, domain 9, domain 12. So as per the information, we need to finish it. So we perform the checklist, we perform the environmental overview, how it has been done and what are the important things. So each one has a different controls. Okay, again, here we have testing, we have current network diagrams, do disclosures, firewall, rotations, disk encryption, cryptography keys, everything will be using it and collect and correlate with that information. So here we provide a security scorecard. So this security scorecard will provide a very important and valuable resources for the assets. How this merchant, whether we can make sure or we require any kind of evaluation process. So all that it has been associated here. So requirement, firewalls, malicious protections. I hope you're able to read the screen, right? So if it is tiny, just let me know. So this is the organization which we are used to practice. So these are the checklist. So I manually tapped from my system, from the other system, and to make sure that any training can be provided to the students. So we have to mention the comment. This has to be verified by the auditors, internal auditors. Then the external auditors will review it and they close as an assessment. So next one is GDPR. So GDPR from 2016, this plays a very, very important role about the General Data Protection Act. A General Data Protection Act is an European Union regulations of information privacies, and it's an economical, which is very important for European privacies, especially whenever you talk about these European countries. So I used to work for the Jetronics, which is like 110 years old. It's an ICT company. Okay, they have been outsourced many projects to India. So one of the project like Starnex, and they had some intersnack connections. They had Virgin Medias, Virgin Tours and Travel. A lot of projects would be associated. When this GDPR came into the picture, so whatever the job they had given, they took back. So make sure that only European employees, European internal employees has to be supporting the business. So that was a very, very tough time for all the cybersecurity people who worked in India. So immediately they asked us to look out for some other jobs. So normally this happens with the European privacy laws. So here we're going to talk about GDPR. What are the main things that we focus on GDPR? What are the main principles of GDPR? So GDPR focus on data governance. So in the previous slide, we discussed about security governance. We discussed about compliances. Now we are going to talk about privacy. Under privacy, we're going to talk about GDPR. So GDPR mainly focus on data governance, data management, and data transparency. So data transparency means what you have opted and how valuable and how transparent we are working with that policies. So GDPR gives an individual, when you say individual, here Arvind is individual, here Nitin is individual, here Albert is individual, or here Sandil is individual. So that means a general data protection regulation is an individual or privacy act. It's a right to determine what data organization stores, requests the organization to delete that data, and receives the notification of data to breach. So we have non-compliances receipts, which an FT fine if they are not following it. So there are millions of fines that they have paid by meta groups. One is the Facebooks or Instagram. So they had some lot of issues in terms of privacy with respect to the European government. So there are like 7 types of main principle for GDPR. So GDPR mainly talks about lawfulness, fairness, transparency. So limitation, data minimizations. And next is confidentiality, integrity, and accountability. Suppose if you are going for any job in India or any other place, and if you mention your cybersecurity skills, so they'll ask you what is difference between IDS, IPS. That is all gone now. So they definitely ask you 2 or 3 questions from compliances. So in that compliances, they'll definitely ask about GDPR. So in GDPR, they will definitely ask you about 7 main principle of GDPR. So this should be tip of your tongue so that you cannot miss it, because this is one of the easiest opportunities to try to evaluate that your standards are up to date. Next one is Sarbanes-Oxley effect. So what is this Sarbanes? So you have come across banking, you have come across PCI DSS for credit card. So Bhaskar, you did not talk about stock and shares. Why you are not talking about stocks and shares? So normally in United States is across the geographical countries, United States is the only country where people morely have 40% of populations are invested on stocks and shares. So this Sarbanes-Oxley Act mainly targets on financial trading system. Trading. When we say a financial trading, it would be New York Exchange. It would be doves and joints. So like Tesla shares or Google share, Alphabet share, Wells Fargo Bank shares. This all falls under Sarbanes-Oxley Act. If they are dealing with a bank, if they're dealing with financial transaction, if they're dealing with monetary transaction, this Sarbanes-Oxley Act has to be there in the compliances. If they don't have this compliance, this will not go under next level of auditing process. It's a reporting standard, safeguarding, tracking, attempt of breach. If you see this movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, how many of them have watched this movie? He would have repeatedly said the SOX compliances. Okay, so some people who don't have experience or knowledge in SOX compliances, they don't understand. But when we clearly understand the movie concept, he gets caught with the SOX compliances, like making a fraudulent activities with the help of job rotation or job in terms of stock manipulation process. So we have executive certifications, we have internal controls. The company should maintain the internal controls to prevent the fraudulent activities. What the price of the share has to be properly updated. So there should be, in India, we have Central Depository Security Limited, or we have National Security Limited. So NCDSL or NSDL, we have different types of depository scheme. So this would be authorized for the individual citizen who can opt for the shares, who is interested for the shares and how he is using it. There should be a whistleblower or protection of employee who reports the corporate fraud and protected informations. Audit the reports. This is like mandated the both audits, reports of internal controls, and agent must conduct the specific enhanced of review of corporate reports. This is very, very important in terms of Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This is also mainly used in identity and access management in terms of, for example, Arvind is working in the organization for 2 years. Suddenly he got a promotion to a team leader. So that previous access, what he was accessing for Active Directory, what he was accessing for Unix, that has to be terminated. That has to be revoked for the next project. So when he's going for the next project, that current activities, whatever the tools he's using, that account has to be enabled. So which he came from the previous, that should be automatically deactivated. If he's still activated, that is a violence issue in Sarbanes-Oxley Act.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.